Falsely accused and kicked out by my own family. Then they had the nerve to show up at my wedding. I am 25 years old and I need to get this off my chest. I have been holding on to this for a long time. And with everything that just happened at my wedding, it finally feels like the right time to share the full story. I grew up with my younger sister Kayla, now 23, in a middle-class neighborhood in Michigan. Pretty standard suburban life. Our parents were not wealthy, but we were not struggling either. My mom ran a small catering business from home, and my dad worked at a manufacturing plant. From the time Kayla was born, it was obvious she was the favorite. I do not say that to be dramatic, it was just the reality. I would bring home straight A's and my parents would glance up and say that is nice before going back to whatever they were doing. Kayla could fail a test and they would tell her she tried her best. She was their golden child and I accepted that early on. I focused on baseball, kept my grades up, and spent time with my friends Marcus and Jordan. It was a normal enough teenage life. Things started to shift when Kayla began dating a guy named Derek. She was 17 and I was 19. From the moment I met him I knew he was trouble. He had no job, no plans, and no apparent interest in getting either. Kayla thought he was exciting and misunderstood. I thought he was a disaster waiting to happen. It did not take long for my suspicions to grow into something more concrete. I once spotted Derek at a store, hovering near the electronics section with his eyes shifting around like he was waiting for the right moment. Another time he casually bragged about finding a brand new iPhone that he was selling for cash, with a smug smile that made it very clear he had not found it on the pavement. I sat my parents down and told them directly that I believed Derek was stealing. My mom told me not to be jealous just because my sister had a boyfriend. My dad said Kayla was a smart girl who knew what she was doing. They dismissed everything I said. After that, Kayla started changing. She became secretive and started borrowing money from our mom's purse. She stayed out late and lied about where she was going. Derek would show up at midnight and honk his horn and they would let her go. He once came to a family dinner clearly impaired and my parents acted as though nothing was wrong. One night I caught Derek at 2 a.m. using a tool on our neighbor's car door. When I confronted him about it the next day, he told me he was just checking if they remembered to lock up. I reported it to my parents. My dad told me to mind my own business. Around March 2018, right after my birthday, things escalated quickly. I was working night shifts at a warehouse at the time, saving money for community college. I would get home around 11 p.m. and game for a few hours before sleeping. That week, things started disappearing from the house. First it was my mom's jewelry, a gold necklace passed down from her grandmother and some expensive rings. She assumed she had misplaced them. Then my dad's watch went missing, a Rolex he had received after 25 years at the plant. He accused me first. Said I must have taken it because I was always asking him for money, which was not true. I had my own job and had never once asked him for anything. Then our iPad vanished. Then my mom's laptop she used for her catering business. There were no signs of forced entry. No broken windows, no damaged locks. Whoever was taking things had full access to the house. I noticed Kayla acting differently. She would flinch every time someone mentioned the missing items. She started locking her bedroom door, something nobody in our house had ever done. Derek had also stopped coming around as much. Then one morning, while I was getting ready for work, I heard Kayla screaming from upstairs. I ran up thinking something was wrong. She was standing in the hallway pointing at me, crying. My parents came running. That is when she launched into the story about how she had been staying up late, studying, which anyone who knew Kayla would know was not something she did, and had seen me sneaking into their room multiple times to steal things. She said she had been too scared to speak up before but could not stay quiet any longer. I tried to defend myself immediately. I had time-stamped work records showing I was on shift during most of the time she was describing. Marcus and Jordan could confirm I was gaming with them online after work. I laid all of this out. My parents would not look at a single piece of it. What struck me as telling was how specific Kayla was about the locations. She knew the jewelry was in the green box on the top shelf. She knew the watch was under my dad's work socks in his drawer. Details like that do not come from watching someone sneak through a room in the dark. They come from knowing exactly where to look. I pointed all of this out. I asked why none of Kayla's things were missing. I asked how there were no signs of a break-in if I had supposedly been sneaking through the house at night. Every time I opened my mouth, my dad shut me down. He gave me an ultimatum. Admit what I did and return everything, or get out. I told him I could not return things I had never taken. He started throwing my belongings into garbage bags and told me I had 1 hour to leave. As I was packing, I could hear Kayla in her room laughing. My entire life was collapsing and she was laughing. My mom stood in the kitchen crying but did nothing. My dad followed me around the house as though I might steal something on my way out the door. After 19 years of being a good student, staying out of trouble, and working an honest job, they genuinely believed I was capable of robbing my own family. I tried reaching out to my Aunt Linda, hoping she might listen. Kayla had already gotten to her first. Within 48 hours, it felt like everyone in the extended family had been told I was a thief. I walked out of that house with nowhere to go. I sat in my car for a long time that night, trying to process what had just happened. I ended up sleeping in a Walmart parking lot for 2 days before my friend Marcus's family offered me their couch. The months that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I had to quit my warehouse job because it was too far from where I was staying. I lost most of my college savings trying to cover basic expenses. Marcus's family were generous, but their house was small and I could feel the strain I was putting on them. I applied to what felt like every job in the area. Most of them ghosted me after checking my references. Word had gotten around about what my parents were saying. After Marcus's, I stayed with my other friend Jordan's family for a while. Same situation. I tried to take up as little space as possible, kept my things in my car, stayed out of the house during the day, waited until late at night to use the bathroom. I was doing everything I could to be invisible. The break I needed eventually came through Jordan's older brother Danny, who told me about an opening at an auto shop in the next town over. Basic work, answering phones, scheduling, data entry. But the owner Frank did not care about my history because Danny had vouched for me personally. Frank was a decent man. He let me sleep in the break room for a few weeks while I saved up enough for a security deposit on a small studio apartment above a Chinese restaurant. It was one room with a bathroom and a hot plate. It was mine. I worked hard. Within 6 months, Frank promoted me to service advisor. I started taking online business classes when I could afford them. I made new friends at work who had no connection to my old life. I was rebuilding slowly, but it was real. Meanwhile, back home, my family was carrying on as if I had never existed. Kayla got into college. My parents bought her a car for graduation. They posted family photos from holidays and birthdays. Mom would write long captions about her amazing daughter. Dad posted about game nights. Not a single message to ask if I was okay or where I was sleeping. I found out through a mutual friend that Derek eventually got arrested, not for any of the things I had suspected directly, but for breaking into cars at a shopping mall. Security caught him mid-attempt. He was apparently still standing there when the police arrived. Kayla broke up with him shortly after. She then posted a long statement on social media about how relieved she was to be free from a toxic relationship and how brave it had taken to walk away. The irony of that framing was not lost on me. Some relatives would reach out occasionally to tell me I should apologize and come home. My cousin Brittany in particular kept messaging me with lines like "everyone makes mistakes and family is forever." I never responded. I had nothing to apologize for. About 2 years into rebuilding my life, I met Lauren. She was a software developer who kept bringing her car to the shop for oil changes. Smart, direct, funny. The first time she came in, she was mid-argument with someone on her phone about a coding problem, and I completely messed up her paperwork because I could not focus. She kept coming back anyway, even though there were at least 5 other shops closer to her apartment. We would talk while she waited for her car. One afternoon her car broke down about 2 miles from the shop. She called asking if we could help. I went to pick her up and we ended up getting lunch while waiting for the repairs. We talked for about 3 hours. We started dating after that. I took it slow. I had trust issues from everything that had happened, and I was also embarrassed about my circumstances, the tiny apartment, the absence of any real family. When I finally told Lauren the whole story, she listened without interrupting. She did not make excuses for my parents or tell me I should try to understand their perspective. She just listened. Lauren's family were the opposite of what I had grown up with. Her mom Diane hugged me like she had known me for years the first time we met. Her dad Steve taught me how to use a grill, something my own dad had never let anyone else near. Her younger brother Ryan and I would play video games together. They included me in Sunday dinners, holidays, everything. I had not felt like part of a family in years. Work continued to improve. Frank promoted me to manager after I completed my business courses. I moved to a better apartment. Lauren moved in with me the following year. We adopted a cat. Named Pancake. Life was genuinely good. Lauren and I got engaged. We were not planning anything elaborate, a small ceremony with close friends and her family. Lauren posted about it on social media because she was excited to share the news. That was enough to set everything in motion again. My cousin Brittany saw the post and told my parents. Within days, the messages started coming in. My mom told relatives I was breaking her heart by excluding family. My dad had people passing along messages about how I was being childish and holding on to the past. Kayla posted long statuses about missing her brother and wanting to heal things between us. Lauren wanted to block everyone immediately. I kept the messages instead. Good thing too, because their version of events started shifting almost immediately. First it was that I was remembering things wrong. Then that they had only been trying to teach me responsibility. Then that I was making Kayla feel bad about old misunderstandings. I received an email from Kayla saying she was in therapy and wanted to make amends. She said she had something important to tell me. I agreed to meet them, not because I thought much would come of it, but because after 6 years I figured I deserved to hear whatever they had to say in person. Lauren waited in the car outside. They showed up 20 minutes late to the diner. My mom, dad, and Kayla. My dad tried to hug me and I stepped back. My mom was already crying. Kayla stared at her menu. After an uncomfortable silence, my dad started talking about how time heals all wounds and how family needs to stick together. I sat and listened. Then Kayla said she needed to tell me something. Derek had been the one stealing from the house all along, which I already knew. But then came the part one was not prepared for. My parents had known the truth for 2 weeks after they kicked me out. Derek got caught breaking into a neighbor's property, and during questioning he confessed to several other thefts, including ours. My parents found out and said nothing. For 6 years they said nothing. Their reason? They were worried that if the truth came out it would make Kayla look bad in front of the extended family. They were protecting her reputation. They decided I would land on my feet, because I was always the responsible one, and let the situation quietly disappear. I asked them directly, if I had never gotten engaged, if this wedding had never come up, would they have ever told me? The table went quiet. That was my answer. Then, as if the conversation could not get any more absurd, my dad started talking about walking me down the aisle. My mom asked about helping Lauren with wedding planning. Kayla asked if she could be a bridesmaid. I told them everything. I told them what sleeping in my car felt like. I told them about losing my job and my savings and spending months on friends' couches. I told them about relatives messaging me to apologize when I had done nothing wrong. My mom said we cannot change the past and we need to move forward as a family. My dad said he was still my father and had a right to be at his son's wedding. Kayla just kept repeating sorry in a loop. I told them they were not invited to the wedding. My dad got loud. My mom cried harder. Kayla started trying to get other people in the restaurant involved. Lauren came in from the car, stood at the end of the table, and told them it was time to leave. They actually went quiet. We walked out together. Kayla grabbed my arm on the way out and told me they would come to the wedding anyway, because family belongs together. I told her security would remove them if they tried. After that meeting, my family launched a full campaign. They told everyone who would listen that I was tearing the family apart by refusing to forgive honest mistakes. They posted about broken hearts and ungrateful children. We hired security for the wedding. Lauren's brother Ryan works in event security and strongly recommended it. Good thing we listened. They tried to get in 3 separate times. The first attempt was during setup. Kayla arrived early and tried to talk her way past security by claiming to be one of Lauren's bridesmaids. She was attempting to sneak our parents in through a back entrance when she was caught. Lauren's actual bridesmaids were all already inside. The second attempt was my dad arriving at the main entrance in a suit, calmly telling the security team that he was the father of the groom and his name must have been left off the list by mistake. When they would not let him in, he began shouting about how he had provided for me my whole life, apparently forgetting the 6 years he spent doing the opposite. The third attempt happened during the ceremony itself. My mom burst through a side door in the middle of the vows, crying that she had a right to watch her son get married. Kayla came in right behind her, wearing an expression of exaggerated concern while doing everything to make the situation worse. Lauren's father stood up calmly and told them to leave. When they refused, Ryan and his team physically escorted them out. My mom was crying about being humiliated the entire way. They then called the police to report that they were being unfairly excluded from a family event. The officers heard both sides and informed them they were fortunate we were not pressing charges for trespassing. The wedding itself, despite all of that, was genuinely wonderful. Lauren looked incredible. Her vows made half the room cry. Marcus and Jordan gave a speech about friendship and loyalty that meant more to me than anything else said that day. Lauren's mom Diane stood up and said she was proud to have me as a son. I had not heard anything like that in a very long time. The next morning I had over 50 messages from relatives calling me cruel for having my parents removed. My Aunt Linda sent a lengthy text about my mom crying herself to sleep. Kayla posted a dramatic status about watching her only brother choose hatred over family. Lauren helped me write one single post laying out the full story. The theft, the false accusation, the 6 years of silence, all of it. We posted it and then blocked everyone from my old life except Marcus and Jordan. Several cousins reached out afterwards to apologize. They said they had never heard the full version of what happened. My parents had apparently left out some fairly important details. First update. After the wedding. It has been 3 months since the wedding. Lauren and I bought a house. Nothing dramatic, just ours. Life is genuinely good when you remove the people who were making it difficult. My parents tried a new approach. They began telling people they were worried about my mental health and that I was still struggling from my difficult years. They sent a long email to Lauren's parents, encouraging them to support us in pursuing family counseling. Lauren's mom Diane forwarded it to us, with a single laughing emoji as her only comment. Kayla showed up at my workplace last week. My boss Frank saw her in the car park and told her to leave before I even knew she was there. She left a 4-page letter on my car. It covered how she cannot sleep, how she has been in therapy, how she understands her toxic patterns now and wants to make things right. Largely the same message as before, just with more clinical language. The letter did contain one piece of new information. Apparently Derek had not just been stealing. During that period, he had also been dealing drugs. Kayla knew about it and had been using as well. Her desperation to cover for him was partly about protecting herself from our parents finding out about the drugs. She says she has been clean for several years now. I believe her on that. It does not change what happened. A lawyer friend of Lauren's looked into whether we could pursue the old theft legally given that my family admitted to knowing the truth. The statute of limitations makes it complicated. Honestly, I have no interest in courts or charges. I just want them to leave me alone. Frank promoted me to regional manager last month. I will be overseeing 3 new locations. Marcus and Jordan come over every Thursday for game nights. Their partners and Lauren all get along well. Lauren's family has Sunday dinners every week and we are there most weeks. Her grandmother keeps accidentally making too much food and sending us home with containers of leftovers. My cousin Chad sent me a long message recently saying I should be the bigger person and start rebuilding bridges. I told him those bridges were not just burned, they were destroyed when my family let me be homeless for 6 years while knowing the truth. He said I was being dramatic. Blocked him. My mom's side of the family is planning a reunion next month. An invitation arrived through Lauren's work email, which was creative. The card read family is forever and it is time to heal old wounds. Lauren and I will be in Japan that week. Already booked. Someone asked in the comments of my original post whether I miss them. The honest answer is that I miss who I thought they were. I miss the version of the family I believed I had before all of this. But that family never really existed. They showed me exactly who they were when they chose to protect Kayla and stay silent for 6 years. That is not something I am interested in revisiting. Lauren keeps joking that I should write a book. Maybe someday. For now this is enough. To anyone reading this who is dealing with something similar, it does get better. Build your life around people who treat you with honesty and basic decency. The people who share your blood are not automatically the people who deserve your trust. Sometimes the most important thing you can do for yourself is simply refuse to keep participating in someone else's version of events. One thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is how long I spent trying to be invisible just to survive. Waiting until everyone was asleep to use the bathroom. Keeping all my things in my car so I would not take up space. Apologizing for existing in rooms where I was already a guest. I spent years making myself smaller and smaller because the people who were supposed to make me feel like I belonged had thrown me out instead. That kind of thing does not leave you overnight. Therapy helped. I started going about 2 years after everything happened, back when I was still at the studio apartment. It was not cheap and I had to budget carefully for it, but it was one of the better decisions I made during that period. I am not going to pretend I came out of all of this completely unaffected. Trust does not come easily to me even now. I second-guess myself in ways I did not used to. But I am aware of it and I work on it. What I did not expect was how much Lauren's family would help with that. Not through anything dramatic or deliberate, just by being consistent. Steve inviting me to help with the grill every single time without making a big deal of it. Diane remembering small things I had mentioned months earlier and asking about them. Ryan texting me about a game without any agenda attached. That kind of steady, unremarkable kindness is what actually started to shift things internally. It is hard to keep bracing for impact when the impact never comes. The pancake update everyone keeps asking about. He is still flat. He sleeps approximately 22 hours a day and has strong opinions about where he is allowed to sit, which is everywhere. Lauren says he has main character energy. She is not wrong. I do not think about my birth family every day anymore. There was a period when I did, when I would replay the night I was kicked out or imagine conversations where they finally said the right thing. That faded. What replaced it was not anger exactly. More like clarity. I understand now that the version of them I missed was largely a version I had constructed myself. Children do that. You fill in the gaps with what you need them to be rather than what they are showing you. When I stopped doing that, the grief became simpler and easier to carry.